almost all of the urinary system, okay, except the small topic is remaining, that is the male and female urethral development with its congenital anomalies. That will cover first, preceded by the genital system. Okay, here we will see the introduction in different stages of gonad, definitive stage, development of testes with its duct system. Okay, so last time we have done with the urinary bladder development. Let's revise it fast, that you know the urinary bladder is developed from the vesico-urethral canal, right? What is this? This is a part of definitive urogenital sinus. It is a part of urogenital sinus which is formed by the cloaca with the formation of urorectal septum, right? So this is the urorectal septum. It divides it into the urogenital sinus and the primitive rectum. This urogenital sinus is further divided into vesico-urethral canal and definitive urogenital sinus, right? And with the opening of this mesonephric duct, this division occurs. So upper dilated part of this vesico-urethral canal form the urinary bladder, while the lower narrow part, it contributes primitive urethra, right? And this majority of vesico-urethral canal which contributes the bladder. What happens next? Because of absorption of this mesonephric duct in the opening of ureteric bud, it will form the 4 openings in this vesico-urethral canal in its posterior wall, so that later these 2 ureteric bud openings shifted upwards and lateral due to the 2 factors. One is ascent of the testis, so pull on ureter, and second is absorption of ureteric bud. So this trigone is formed on the posterior wall of the urinary bladder. So how this urinary bladder is derived? It is derived from what are the different embryological sources. First is the lining epithelium. So except trigone, whole of the urinary bladder epithelium is derived from endoderm, that is from the upper dilated part of vesico-urethral canal. What happens to trigone? Its epithelium is mesodermal in region. Why? Because of the absorption of mesonephric duct at this region, which contributes trigone. Connective tissue and muscles surrounding this epithelium is derived from splantochloric mesoderm, while urachus, which later forms a median umbilical ligament, it is derived from Ehrenreich. So till this part we have finished in the last lecture. Okay. Hope I am audible. So we start with the urethra development, which is the last part of urinary system, followed by genital system. So male urethra, how it is developed. So it is developed from 3 sources. First is the primitive urethra, which is a lower narrow part of this vesico-urethral canal, and definitive urogenital sinus, which is further divides into pelvic part and the phallic part. So these 3 parts which forms the male urethra. Okay. So let's see the detailed development of male urethra. So you know male urethra in adult has got the 3 parts: prostatic part, membranous part, and the penile part. Developmentally, we have 4th part, that is a terminal part, which is present in glans. Okay, because it is having different source of development. So we have 4 parts developmentally. The prostatic part, which is further divides into the proximal part and distal part. Okay, because its development differs. So proximal part of this prostatic urethra, from where to where? From the opening of this urethra in the bladder, that is bladder neck, till the ejaculatory duct opening. Okay, so from bladder neck up to the ejaculatory duct opening, the part is proximal part, which is derived from vesico-urethral canal, caudal part of vesico-urethral canal, and of course it is endodermal in origin. So proximal part of prostatic urethra derived from caudal part of vesicourethral canal, endodermal in origin. In this proximal part, you know, there is an extension of opening of mesonephric duct, okay? And this absorbed mesonephric duct contributes the posterior wall of proximal part of prostatic urethra, which is of course mesodermal in origin. So proximal part is endodermal as well as mesodermal. While the distal part of prostatic urethra, it is derived from definitive urogenital sinus, which is upper part of definitive urogenital sinus is the pelvic part, and the lower part is phallic part. So upper pelvic part of definitive urogenital sinus contributes the distal prostatic urethra, which is endodermal in origin. And the membranous part of urethra is also derived from pelvic part of definitive urogenital sinus, which is also endodermal in origin. Figure will explain more clearly. This is a vesicourethral canal. These are the first two openings of mesonephric duct. Now, because of the absorption, the urethric bud and mesonephric ducts are formed, and they ultimately form the trachea. So, these mesonephric duct opening, which is extending in the primitive urethra, this is a part. Okay, so this is a vesicourethral canal, upper dilated part. This is a lower part, which is also called as primitive urethra. And this is definitive urogenital sinus, which is having pelvic and phallic part, right? So this is a prostatic urethra. When you see this prostatic urethra, it has got proximal part and distal part. Proximal part is contributed by this primitive urethra, part of the vesicourethral canal, right? While this distal part, it is contributed by pelvic part of definitive urogenital sinus. The same way, the membranous part, which is present in urogenital diaphragm, it is again derived from pelvic part of urogenital sinus. The last part, which is a penile urethra, it is derived from the phallic part of definitive urogenital sinus. Okay, so you understand how this male urethra develops. Prostatic part proximally till ejaculatory duct opening is derived from primitive urethra. Distal is by pelvic part, and the membranous urethra is from again pelvic part, and penile urethra is from phallic part. The fourth part, which is a green color, it is a terminal part which is present in the glands of penis, and it is ectodermal in origin. So this is the penile part. So except the terminal part, whole of the penile part is derived from phallic part of definitive urogenital sinus, which is endoderm, right? Only the terminal glandular part, which is developed in glands, it is derived from ectoderm, surface ectoderm. So what will happen? This surface ectoderm, it forms the solid cord which invaginate from the tip of glans. Okay, and this is a penile. Yellow color is penile urethra, spongy urethra. It develops till this part. In the terminal part, surface ectoderm form the solid cord which gets canalized and ultimately connected with this, the spongy urethra or penile urethra. And this is how the complete male urethra develops, right? So this is the terminal part which is derived from surface ectoderm. Okay, so what is the summary? How we summarize it? So lining epithelium of male urethra, it is mostly endoderm, which is derived from mainly the definitive urogenital sinus, that is pelvic and pelvic part, and the proximal part only it is derived from primitive urethra, part of vesicourethral canal. Okay, what is the exception? Only the two exceptions. One is dorsal wall of proximal prostatic urethra, which is mesodermal. Why? Because of absorption of mesonephric duct. While terminal part, which is present in glands, is endodermal. So this is about the lining epithelium of male urethra. Now the connective tissue and smooth muscles surrounding this urethra is derived from splachnopleuric mesoderm. which is derived from intraembryonic mesoderm. So this is about male urethra, right? You're supposed to explain the endoderm, this epithelium, how it is derived, and surrounding connective tissue and smooth muscles. What about female urethra? You know it is a shorter in length and it is exactly the same length corresponding with the prostatic part of male urethra. So it is derived from the only two sources. The majority of this part, most of this part is derived from the primitive urethra, that is the caudal part of the vesicourethral canal, endodermal region. And just like male urethra, the posterior wall is also having the mesodermal in origin because of absorbed mesonephric ducts. Only small terminal part is derived from the pelvic part, right? So what happens to whole of the pelvic and the phallic part? So the remaining pelvic part and phallic part, they does not contribute female urethra. They form the vestibule of vagina, where this female urethra opens, right? So the sources of female urethra is mainly the primitive urethra, which is a caudal part of the vesicourethral canal, and a very small part of the pelvic part of the definitive vaginatal sinus. Both are endodermal, and the small mesodermal part is there at the posterior wall. Okay, so this is about the female urethra. So you can compare this male and female urethra. So this prostatic urethra, which is having proximal part. So this is a till this proximal part, most of the female urethra develops, and this is the distal part and the membranous urethra. So this distal part is by pelvic part. So till this part, so this female urethra is having derived from the vesicourethral and the small pelvic part. Whole of the pelvic and the vaginal remaining pelvic and phallic part of urogenital sinus contributes vestibule of vagina. While in male, the last part, the dominant part, contributes by the ectoderm, surface ectoderm. This is the final, the chart which is giving the sources. Female urethra by vesicourethral canal and pelvic part. Male urethra is by vesicourethral canal, and pelvic part forms the prostatic urethra. Membranous is again by pelvic. Penile part is by phallic, and terminal part is by surface ectoderm. Right? Hope you understand. Now, what are the congenital anomalies of urethra? So, as usual, this obstruction can be there because of either stricture or PUV, that is the posterior urethral wall. Then diverticula can be there, duplication of urethra can be there, fistula can be there, that is a communication between the two parts, that is between the rectum and urethra or vagina and urethra. Hypospadias and epispadias. So these are congenital anomalies. So the obstruction, as I said, it might be because of the stricture. So this is a stricture, which is where the canalization is not proper. So there will be obstruction of the urine flow to the urethra. There can be the posterior urethral wall, PUV, and that may be at any of the level, which may further obstruct the urinary flow into the urethra. So what will be the result? Dilated bladder, hydroureter, and hydronephrosis. So they can occur because of obstruction of urethra. Diverticula, it can be because of this diverticula at different parts of the urethra. It can be membranous, prostatic, or penile part. Duplicated urethra, where it can be duplication at the distal part. There can be duplication at proximal part, or it may be the complete two urethral development with the two openings at the tip. So you can see here the two openings are there and two catheter can be passed through these two urethras. They might be open as a two separate openings, or it might open as a single. Okay. Then fistula. So in male, it is most probably the erectile urethral fistula develops. You know the cause, because of improper development of the urorectal septum. It does not extend till cloacal membrane. So this fistula will result. Like here in females, there might be urethrovaginal fistula, connection between urethra and the vagina, right? Now, the last one is the hypospadias and epispadias. It depends on the opening of the urethra in the penis. It might be in the not on the normal side. Might be on the ventral surface, or it might be in the dorsal surface. If it is opens into the ventral surface, it is called as hypospadias. If this urethra opens on the dorsal surface, then it is called as epispadias. Okay. Now we'll go to the our next topic, that is the development of genital system. So it is very important. Gonads development is always asked in the theory. So let's start with the genital system. Okay. So the genetic sex or chromosomal sex, that is the XY and XX of the embryo, is established at the time of fertilization. That is approximately 7 days after ovulation. So though the genetic sex is already established, but the gonads do not acquire male or female morphological characteristic features. Okay. So the gonadal sex, which is the development of morphological characteristic in the gonads, like it is differentiating in the testes and ovary definitive and stage. So it is apparent by 7th week of development. Okay, so gonadal development into the definitive stage is by 7th week of development. And how it occurs? The master gene which is responsible for the gonadal differentiation is SRY, sex determining region on Y. This SRY gene, it is present on Y chromosome and at its short arm position 11. This SRY gene encodes a transcription factor or protein, that is the testis determining factor, TDF. You know, the SRY and TDF are very important for gonadal differentiation, and they ultimately induce this definitive gonad formation. So how it happens? In the presence of testis determining factor, these indifferent gonads will form the testes. Once these testes are differentiated, these further differentiate the two cells, Leydig cells and Sertoli cells. These Leydig and Sertoli cells, you know, they secrete the hormones, the testosterone, and Sertoli cell secretes the MIF, Mullerian inhibiting factor. And these result in phenotypically male embryo. So presence of TDF and absence of TDF is the most important factor. Presence of TDF, the testes will develop, which further secretes the testosterone and MIF that results in phenotypically male. If there is an absence of TDF and of course the absence of testosterone and MIF, they develop the ovary. Indifferent gonads develop into ovary, and that result in phenotypically female embryo. Right? So Y chromosome, SRY gene, and TDF. These three are very important factors for development of definitive gonads like testes and ovary. So in the XY male chromosomal sex, the SRY gene Y chromosome is present. So as presence of SRY and TDF, testes will develop, which further secretes MIF testosterone, resulting phenotypically male embryo. The same way in the XX genotype, there is an absence of Y chromosome, so the absence of SRY, absence of TDF, MIF testosterone, so ovary, definitive ovary will develop. Okay. Now, what are the three sources by which genital system develop? These three sources are, first, you know very well, that is intermediate mesoderm, which form genitourinary system, right? So, which is having the gonadal ridge on the medial side form the gonads, while the lateral side, the nephrogenic cord forms the kidneys. Second is coelomic epithelium, which covers the intermediate mesoderm, And third is part of cloaca, which contributes the development of external genitalia and accessory sex glands. Okay. So we study this genital system in three parts. First is gonads. Second is the genital ducts or sex ducts. In the male, they are mesonephric duct. In the female, they are paramesonephric ducts. What are the derivatives we see? And the third one is we see the accessory sex glands and external genitalia. So let's move on to the gonads development. So gonads are basically testes and ovaries development, which gets differentiated by 7th week of intrauterine life. Genital ducts, which are basically mesonephric ducts and tubules, what they will develop? They will develop into the efferent ductus or vasa efferentia, epididymis or duct of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and ejaculum. These structures are derived from duct system of the male, which is contributed by mesonephric duct and mesonephric tubules. In the female, the genital duct is paramesonephric duct, which developed into the uterine tubes, uterus, and vagina. So in the female, genital ducts give rise to the uterine tubes, uterus, and vagina. Accessory sex glands, they are in male, prostate and the bulbourethral gland. In female, they are Bartholin's gland or greater testicular glands. While the external genital organ, which remains undifferentiated in the early stage and only at the time of 3rd month of intrauterine life, this sex differentiation of external genitalia becomes apparent. Okay, so the external genital organs develop last by the 3rd month of intrauterine life. So this is about the introduction. Now we'll proceed for development of gonads. So whenever we discuss this development of gonad, it develops in 2 stages. First is indifferent stage, where the gonadal structures are similar irrespective of their genetic sex. Okay, they develop similarly, and that is the period between 1st to 6 weeks of intrauterine life. Okay, while the definitive stage is the 2nd stage, where the sex differentiation occurs, the male and female gonads develops. So that is 7th week onwards. So gonads develop in 2 stages, indifferent stage and definitive stage. In different stages 1 to 6 weeks, while definitive stage is 7 weeks onward. These gonads have 3 sources by which it develops. The gonadal ridge, you know very well, part of intermediate mesoderm. Then primordial germ cells, which are not present in the ridge, they get migrated from the wall of yolk cell, okay, to the genital ridge. And third is coelomic epithelium, which is covering intermediate mesoderm. So these are the 3 sources by which gonads develop. So let's see about the indifferent stage. How this indifferent stage develops. So first, in the indifferent stage, gonadal ridge is formed. And when this start formation, it is by the 4th week of intrauterine life. Okay. This gonadal ridge, how it is formed? It is formed by intermediate mesoderm and proliferation of overlying coelomic epithelium, right? So in medial part of intermediate mesoderm, which elevated and contributes gonadal ridge, which is covered by the proliferated coelomic epithelium. This is looking like an elongated oval elevation medial to mesonephros or mesonephric ridge. You know this mesonephros, which is a part of nephrogenic cord. Okay, so this elongated elevation, which is on the medial side, contributes gonadal ridge along with its covering coelomic epithelium. But still the germ cell does not appear here until 6 weeks of development. So from where this primordial germ cell appears? So you can see here in the figure, this is the developing mesonephros, and just medial to this red color oval elongation, that is a gonadal ridge. The cut section you can see here, the gonadal ridge is there, and this is a mesonephros. This is mesonephric tubule and mesonephric duct. Here you can see very nicely the intermediate mesoderm, and here which is divides into two parts, the lateral part, nephrogenic part, cord, and where this mesonephros develops, and medial part is gonadal ridge. Here there is only the intermediate mesoderm and coelomic epithelium. Now the next stage is primordial germ cells. Where it is derived from wall of yolk sac near the opening of Allen pulse. And from here, they start migrated through this dorsal mesentery, okay, of the dorsal mesentery migrates, and then it reaches this gonadal ridge and ultimately invades it. So let's see, the first stage we have seen the gonadal ridge, second will be primordial germ cells. So you know primordial germ cells, they are basically differentiate into the oogonia or spermatogonia, which forms the gametes, ova or sperm. They are derived from, we already discussed in oogenesis and spermatogenesis, they are derived from epiblast, that is ectodermal in origin. Size is quite large, 12 to 20 micron. And how it differentiates and migrates? During second week, they get differentiated. Where in the wall of yolk sac close to Allen pulse. By fourth week, it start migrating through the dorsal mesentery of hindgut and by active amoeboid movement. So as it gets migrate, and then it reaches towards the genital ridge by the fifth week. And by the sixth week only, they reach here and invades the genital ridge, which further induces the definitive gonads formation. Okay, so this is the primordial germ cells. First, the gonadal ridge is formed. Then the primordial germ cells, they get differentiated and migrate and then invades this gonadal ridge. Okay, so this is a migration, and then this reaches this gonadal ridge, this red colors, and that entrapped in this gonadal ridge. Where it reaches. So this, as soon as this primordial germ cell reaches the coelomic epithelium, you know that it is covering coelomic epithelium of this intermediate mesoderm start proliferating. And this form the numerous finger-like processes which grows inwards deep into the gonadal ridge. And they form primitive sex cords. So third stage is primitive sex cords. So indifferent gonads has got three parts. First is the gonadal ridge, second is the primordial germ cells migration, and third is primitive sex cords. After this, the indifferent gonads are formed. Okay, and this developed indifferent gonads now has got two parts: the outer cortex and inner medulla. The central part is medulla, and peripheral part is the cortex. Until this stage of indifferent gonad, the structurally both the gonads has got similarity, both develop similarly, and after that only differentiation occurs. Okay, so this is the indifferent gonad formation. First there is a gonadal ridge formation, second will be this primordial germ cells, and third will be these primitive sex cords are formed where these primordial germ cells get entrapped. Okay, and ultimately this indifferent gonad is formed, which is having outer cortex and inner medulla. Okay, outer cortex and inner medulla. Now after this, the definitive gonads will form. So how this gonadal differentiation occurred? Of course, it is depending on chromosomal sex or chromosomal constitution of the embryo. If there is an X embryo, you know Y is absent. So the cortical cords will be differentiated. Cortical cords developed which are so the primitive sex cord which are present in the cortex, they develop and form the cortical cords, and which differentiate these gonads into ovary. What happens to medulla? Medulla regresses. So when cortex develop, then ovary is formed, and when medulla develops or medullary cords develop, then the testes is formed. Okay. So ovary develop by the age of 8th to 9th week of intrauterine life. In the embryo with the XY configuration, the medulla differentiate into testes because of development of medullary cords. What happens to cortex? Cortex regress. So that's why we always say ovary develops in the cortex and testes develop in the medulla. Development of testes is slightly earlier, around 7th week of intrauterine life. Okay, so this flow chart clearly explain how these indifferent gonads convert into the definitive gonads, that is testes and ovary. So if there is a XY, because of presence of Y, there is testis formation where the medullary cords developed, cortical cords disappears, and there is third additional part is thick tunica albuginea. While in the absence of Y chromosome with the XX configuration, the ovary develops, medullary cords degenerates, cortical cords develop, and no or the thin tunica albuginea. Okay. Now this is how to summarize this sexual differentiation. So we have seen the 3 stages, 2 stages till now, and this is the 3rd stage. So this differentiation in 3 sequential process. First is chromosomal sex, second is gonadal sex, and third is phenotype sex. Okay. So chromosomal sex, we said it is at the time of fertilization, depending on the sperm which fertilizes the ovary. The sperm carrying Y chromosome, XY or male fetus will form, and if it is carrying X chromosome, the XX chromosome will form, and that is around the 7th day after ovulation. Gonadal sex is the next sequence where this chromosomal sex itself, XY or XS, direct the development of definitive gonad. So testes in case of XY is developed at 7th week, and the ovary in case of XX is developed, and it is around 8th to 9th. Phenotype sex is the third sequence where the development of external genitalia becomes apparent by 3rd month. In case of presence of Y chromosome, phenotype male will develop, while in the absence of Y chromosome, phenotype female. So this is sexual differentiation in 3 sequences: chromosomal, gonadal, and phenotype sex. Now we move on to definitive gonad, that is the development of testes. So the testes will develop in the presence of XY chromosome, which we have seen, and SRY gene on which the TDF factor encoded. Okay, so in the presence of Y chromosome, SRY gene and TDF, the testes develop. What is the role of TDF? It induces the differentiation of sex cord into Leydig cells and Sertoli cells. So it is helping in differentiation of 2 cells, the Leydig cells and Sertoli cells. As second role is accelerate the growth of testes faster than ovary. That's why the testes develop slightly earlier, around 7th week, and ovaries develop around 8th to 9th. Okay. So presence of SRY gene and TDF is very important for development of testes. So what is the role of these 2 cells? The Leydig cells, as you know, they give the 2 secretions, the testosterone hormone and testosterone. Okay. These Leydig cells, they are from where they derive? They are derived from mesenchyme, which is lying between the sex cords. So they are finger-like sex cord, you know, medullary cords. In between, the mesenchyme is there, which differentiate into Leydig cells. What is the role of testosterone? It stimulates the growth of mesonephric duct. Okay, it is also called as Wolffian duct. that forms the male genital duct system. So it is differentiating into the male genital duct system. While dihydrotestosterone, its role is to differentiate the external genital organ, and this hormone is converted from this testosterone in the presence of enzyme 5-alpha reductase. So testosterone helps in stimulation of mesonephric duct for development of duct system, while dihydrotestosterone helps in differentiation of external genital. What is the role of Sertoli cells? It is derived from the surface epithelium of testes, or you can say the coelomic epithelium or medullary cords, from where they get differentiated into the Sertoli cells. They secretes MIF, Mullerian inhibitory factor. What is its role? It is very important role. It gives rise to inhibition of paramesonephric duct or Mullerian duct, which ultimately form the female genital duct system, and that is inhibited by Mullerian inhibitor factor. Okay. So this is a flow chart showing how the definitive testes develop in the presence of Y chromosome, SRY gene, and TDM. You have to remember these three. In the presence of these three only, the Sertoli cells and Leydig cells are differentiated, and ultimately they secrete the three hormones. The testosterone role in stimulation or differentiation of mesonephric or Wolffian duct gave rise to male genital duct system. Dihydrotestosterone is helping in differentiation of external genitalia, while anti-Mullerian substance, it can be called as Mullerian inhibiting factor or AMS, anti-Mullerian substance, that inhibits the Mullerian or paramesonephric duct, and that inhibits the formation of uterus, uterine tube, and vagina. Okay. Now, once these medullary cords develop, how the remaining part of testes developed. So these primitive sex cord, which are present in different gonads, they increase in length, okay, and extend deep into medulla and get and results in formation of medullary cords. Okay. Now these primordial germ cells which are migrated, they incorporate in this medullary cords. And these primordial germ cells, they differentiate into spermatogonia, okay, and then results in formation of sperms by the spermatogenesis in the later phase. By 4th month, these cords becomes horseshoe shaped. Though they are increasing in length and the space is insufficient, they becomes highly coiled, horseshoe shaped, but still they are solid. They are not canalized. They are solid. Okay. When they get canalized, they are only canalized at the time of puberty. So primitive sex cord, which forms a medullary cord in the testis development, they get horseshoe shaped by the 4th month, and during puberty only they get canalized and form seminiferous tubules, right? Seminiferous tubules, and that's why though they are canalized at spermatogenesis, so that's why the spermatogenesis starts by the time of puberty, not before that. Okay, so this is the complete development of testes, which is showing this in different gonads. They are medullary cords which are forming. Here they are mesonephric tubules which are in close contact, and towards puberty there is formation of this tunica albuginea that we'll see in the next slide, and this is the canalized, the medullary cords which forms the seminiferous tubules. Okay, so one more thing happens, that is the formation of tunica albuginea. What is this tunica albuginea? This is the dense layer of fibrous tissue, which is formed by the mesenchymal cells, and they surrounds the developing testes. So mesenchymal cells, they become thick, dense, and they surround the developing testes, which is exactly appear between the sex cords and the germinal. So towards the inner side there is sex cord, and towards the outer side there is germinal epithelium. So once this tunica albuginea is formed, so what the germinal epithelium has got no role in further. Okay, so role of germinal epithelium is stopped. Now this tunica albuginea, they send septa the inside this developing testes between the medullary cords, right? So this is how the definitive testis is formed. How it is formed? Formation of first is medullary cords. The second is entrapment of this primordial germ cells, and third is the differentiation of this Leydig cells and Sertoli cells, and fourth is the tunica albuginea formation. Okay, and so by this the definitive testis is formed. This definitive testis, it is how it is presented. It is project into coelomic cavity by the mesentery, and this mesentery is called the mesorchium. This mesorchium is the mesentery of testis, by which it is projecting in the suspended in the posterior abdominal wall. So this is about definitive testis development. Now, how the duct system of the testis is formed. This is the last part which we will discuss, the duct system of testis. So ducts duct system is developed from two sources, that is a mesonephric tubule and mesonephric duct. Okay, they are in close proximity with this gonadal ridge. So they ultimately form. You know, during mesonephros development, I told you almost all of the mesonephric tubules disappear except the caudal 15 to 20 tubules, which contributes duct system of testis, right? So here this persistent mesonephric tubules contributes the development of testis. So what is derived from medullary cords? As I said, medullary cords which are formed, when they canalize, they form the seminiferous tubule. These seminiferous tubules, towards the end, they form the straight tubule, and their ends gets the anostomos with each other, and they form rete testis. So three parts develop from medullary cords. They are seminiferous tubule, its straight tubules, and the rete testis. What is the rete testis? It is the anastomosis of ends of seminiferous tubule with the one another. So that we see in the figure. So these three parts derive from medullary cords. Then what is derived from mesonephric tubules? So these rete testes get established contact with this persisted 15 to 20 mesonephric tubule of mesonephros, and they form vasa effracia. So mesonephric tubule contributes vasa effracia, which are basically connected with rete testis. So you can see here, this is the mesonephric tubules are there, okay, and this is a mesonephric duct, and they are medullary cords. Later, this cortex disappears. This is the developing tunica albuginea, and their ends get anostomos. These are forming basically becomes horseshoe shape, and their towards the end they form straight tubules, and these straight tubules, the ends of this seminiferous tubule get anostomos with each other, and they contribute testis. So these medullary cords ultimately contributes the seminiferous tubule, the straight tubule, and rete testis, right? And these mesonephric tubules, which are ultimately get connected with these rete testis, and they form vasa effracia or efferent tubules. Okay, and this continue with mesonephric duct. You know, mesonephric tubules open into mesonephric duct. So derivative of mesonephric tubules we have seen is the vasa efferentia. Now they are connecting to mesonephric ducts. So this mesonephric duct contributes which different parts. So the cranial part, or the most proximal part, which form the duct of epidermis. You know, vasa efferentia, they enters into the epididymis at the head of the epidermis. So where the duct of epidermis are formed. This is a single duct. These vasa efferentia joins to form a duct of epidermis, which is derived from mesonephric duct. And this duct is highly coiled, and this ultimately contributes epididymis, basically the head, body and tail of epididymis. It is contributed by duct of epididymis derived from mesonephric duct. Now at the tail of epididymis, it is continue as you know vas deferens or ductus deferens, which is the lower part or the distal part of mesonephric duct. So the vas deferens also contributed by mesonephric duct. What happens to this ductus deferens? At the site of the base of urinary bladder, it joins with seminal vesicle to form ejaculatory duct, right? So a lower end of mesonephric duct, it gives a diverticulum and which is present on the either side, okay, and so these contributes, they develop into the seminal vesicle. So diverticulum from the lower end of mesonephric duct forms the seminal vesicle, and this seminal vesicle and this ductus deferens, these two joins to form ejaculatory duct. So the distalmost part or the lowest part or towards the end of mesonephric duct, the uh, the that part is contributing ejaculatory duct. Where it is present, it is opening into the prostatic urethra. So during this bladder development also, I said the prostatic urethra, in the prostatic urethra, ejaculatory duct are opens, and they are nothing but the terminal part of mesonephric duct. Okay, so these ejaculatory ducts are nothing but the between the opening into the prostatic urethra and origin of diverticulum, that is seminal vesicle. So you know adult gross features, the ductus deferens and seminal vesicle joins to form ejaculatory duct which opens into the prostatic urethra. So all three are derived from mesonephric duct. So the four structures which are derived from mesonephric duct, duct of epididymis, ductus deferens, seminal vesicle and ejaculatory duct. So this is about duct system. And this is showing all the features. These are the medullary cords, these are the persistent mesonephric tubule and the mesonephric duct. Here they becomes horseshoe shape. Then there are septa which is arising from this tunica albuginea which divides this testis in almost 200 lobes. And this, the end of seminiferous tubule form these straight tubules. They anostomose to form a repeat testis. They join with this mesonephric tubule to form vasa euphrasia. Here you can appreciate very nicely. These are the vasa euphrasia which are joining to the mesonephric duct, which contributes. The first part is the duct of epididymis, followed by ductus deferens, and the last one is the same thing here. And that is ductus deferens, and then it also contributes the seminal vesicle and the ejaculatory duct, which opens into the prostatic urethra. So you can see here, these are the medullary cords, straight tubules. They anostomose to form repeat testis. These are vasa euphrasia, and then this is a duct of epididymis, and then there will be the vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and ejaculatory. So this is how the duct system is formed. Okay. Apart from these structures, there are few vestigial structures are also developed in relation with the testis. And what are these vestigial structures? These are the appendix of testis that is present at the upper pole, which is also called as hydative of Morgagni. Then appendix of epididymis, which is also present at the head of the epididymis. There are superior and inferior aberrant ductus and perididymis. So these are vestigial structures which are developed in relation with testes, which are they are remnant of either the mesonephric duct or paramesonephric duct. That we'll see in the next lecture. So this is the summary of this duct system, which is showing the medullary cords or the medulla oblongata ridge contributes seminiferous tubules, rete testes, and straight. Then mesenchymal condensation of genital ridge, they contribute the Leydig cells, fibrous septa, and covering, that is tunica albuginea. Okay. Then the mesonephric tubules, which are persistent mesonephric tubules, which contributes vasa efferentia or efferent ductile. And mesonephric duct, they contributes the canal of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and ejaculate. The appendix of testes is remnant of paramesonephric duct, while appendix of epididymis is remnant of mesonephros. So this is all about the development of testes. Next time, one part is remaining, that is descent of testes, because the testes is developed in relation with mesonephros, that is in the lumbar region. So it has to be descent into the scrotum, and how it descend, that we'll see, followed by development of ovary. So if any question you can ask, and that's all about today. We'll meet in the next lecture. Thank you.